I was away on campaign for 5 years. I returned triumphant. My husband, waiting to greet me, held the hand of a small child. Beside him stood a timid woman. This was the husband who had promised me a lifetime of devotion. Just the two of us. The husband whose life I had saved, who had sworn he would never betray me or take a concubine. In the 5 years I was gone, he had taken a concubine and had a son. He said, "Evelyn, you will always be the one I love. I only lust after her body. Evelyn, you are finally back. I am Evelyn, the only daughter of the Grand General of the North. I trained in martial arts with my father from a young age and accompanied him on many campaigns. I became the youngest general in history, and the only woman to hold the rank. 5 years ago, there was unrest on the border. My father was unwell, so I took his place on the battlefield. At that time, I had been married to Julian for 2 years. Julian was the top scholar of his year, but when the princes vied for the throne, he backed the wrong one. After the new emperor ascended, he began purging his rivals, and Julian's life hung by a thread. I risked everything to plead for him, kneeling in the snow outside the palace gates for 3 days and 3 nights before the new emperor finally granted me an audience. He agreed to spare Julian, but on one condition: I had to promise not to conceive a child for 10 years. During the late emperor's reign, the court had favored scholars over soldiers. Besides my family, there were no other capable commanders. My father had me late in life and had no sons. Now, with him aging, the new emperor worried there would be no one to lead our armies if he fell ill. The border was in constant turmoil, and war could break out at any moment. The emperor reasoned that if I became pregnant, I would be unable to go to war, so he demanded my vow. I agreed without hesitation. When Julian was released from the high-security prison, he asked for my hand in marriage. I told him clearly about my promise to the emperor and that I didn't need him to repay me. I understood how important it was for a man to carry on his family line. I didn't want to emotionally blackmail him, but his gaze was firm and full of love. "Evelyn, you were willing to give your life for me. How could I ever betray such devotion? Never mind 10 years without a child. I would be willing even if we never had one for our entire lives." He promised me then that he would only ever have me as his wife and never take a concubine. But now, who were this woman and the small child standing beside him? All the joy I had felt, all my anticipation vanished the moment I stepped through the door. I looked at Julian's ecstatic face and my eyes reddened, just as they had 5 years ago when he saw me off, my eyes swollen from crying. But things were different now. "Who are they?" I asked him. A flicker of guilt and shame crossed Julian's eyes. He remained silent. The woman stepped forward and introduced herself. "Greetings, sister. My name is May. I am the master's concubine. I will be sure to serve you well in the future." Then she quickly prompted the child, "Quickly, Leo, call her mother." Leo frowned, clearly reluctant. Under May's threatening glare, he bowed to me. "Mother, please accept your son's respects." He knelt properly on the ground. I laughed. Looking at the scene, at Julian, I laughed out loud. 5 years of yearning had become a joke. Julian saw my expression and rushed to take my hand in panic. I lifted my hand, avoiding his touch. "Filthy." The single word reached his ears with perfect clarity. Julian's face flushed with shame. "How old are you?" I lowered my gaze and asked Leo. 5. Leo started, then quickly corrected himself. "Reporting to mother, your son is 4 years old." 4 years old. That meant Julian had taken a concubine almost as soon as I left. So, while I was risking my life on the battlefield, Julian was wrapped in warmth and comfort. My laughter grew more manic. Julian was likely frightened by my state. He quickly said, "Evelyn, let me explain." He gestured for May and Leo to leave. "What happened with May was an accident," Julian said. 2 months after you left, I missed you so terribly that I turned to wine to drown my sorrows. May was a new maidservant attending to me, and in my drunken state, I mistook her for you. That's how that one night happened." I smiled sardonically. Wine was always such a convenient excuse. "I knew I had wronged you, so I sent May away from the estate the very next day. But 3 months later, she returned, saying she was carrying my child. I wanted her to get rid of it, but my mother threatened to kill herself. I truly had no choice but to let May give birth. If you don't believe me, you can ask my mother, his mother, as if she would ever side with me. When Julian and I first fell for each other, she couldn't wait for him to propose given my family's status. But when she learned I couldn't have children for 10 years, her attitude completely changed. It was only because Julian insisted on marrying me, and because the story of how I saved him had spread through the capital, that she reluctantly agreed, not wanting to lose face. Evelyn, it was only that one time with May. I never touched her again after that, Julian said. His eyes fixed on mine, his body trembling with nerves. I even thought about sending them to our countryside villa before you returned so you would never find out, but I couldn't bring myself to deceive you like that. What a noble-sounding reason. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. I just stared at him. On the border, I had imagined countless happy reunions with Julian. Reality, however, was a sharp sword piercing my chest. Evelyn, please give me another chance. A mistake like this will only happen once in my lifetime. If it ever happens again, may I be struck down by lightning, he swore, raising his hand. I looked at his pained, repentant face and remembered the deep love we once shared. In the end, I chose to forgive him. But I knew this thorn would remain embedded in my heart forever. In the month after my return, Julian was glued to my side whenever he wasn't occupied with official duties. He treated me with the affection of a newlywed. I would sometimes overhear the servants gossiping. The young master is so good to the general. The general is so fortunate. No wonder she chose to marry the master when he had nothing, instead of becoming a princess by marrying Prince Alistair. If it were me, I'd marry the master too. I tried to open my heart and start over with him. Tomorrow was his mother's 50th birthday. After arranging the banquet, I went to my mother-in-law's quarters to go over the details with her one last time. As I approached, I saw May and Leo were there as well. My mother-in-law was kissing and hugging Leo, calling him her precious grandson, her affection for him on full display. I didn't mind. It was natural for a grandmother to dote on her grandson. But then, I saw Julian inside the room. He swept Leo into his arms, teasing him with a doting expression completely at odds with the distant attitude he usually showed the boy. I saw May standing beside them, her eyes full of deep affection, her smile gentle. Laughter periodically drifted from the room. In that moment, I felt like a complete outsider. I don't know how long I stood there before Julian noticed me. A flash of panic crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by calm. He put Leo down and walked composedly towards me. Evelyn, it is so late and cold. Why aren't you wearing more? Look, your hands are freezing. He took my hand, his face a mask of concern and adoration. He didn't mention a word about his cheerful interactions with Leo and May inside. What brings you to Mother's so late? Julian asked, leading me into the room. I took a quiet breath and got to the point. Mother, tomorrow is your 50th birthday. I wanted to confirm the arrangements with you one last time. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I have complete faith in you, my dear. Your arrangements are perfect. You must be tired. It is so late. You should go get some rest, his mother said kindly. Yes, I replied. I turned to leave. Julian walked with me. Julian, wait a moment. His mother called out, I'll take Evelyn back to rest. We have to greet guests early tomorrow. Mother, you should rest early too. Daddy, I want to go with you, Leo said unhappily. Before he could finish, May covered his mouth. She smiled sweetly. Leo is just being childish. Please don't mind him, sister. What childishness? It is perfectly natural for a child to be close to his father. They say blood is thicker than water. Mother, Julian interrupted, his expression displeased. Fine, fine. My son is all grown up now and sides with his wife. He doesn't listen to his mother anymore, she said sarcastically. Leo is still the good one. Come here, Leo, to Grandma. When you grow up, don't be like your father. Leo rushed into his grandmother's arms, and they put on another show of deep grandparent-grandchild affection. I strode out of the courtyard. Julian followed behind me, calling my name, Evelyn. I went straight to our room. Julian wrapped his arms around me. Evelyn, don't be angry. I am not angry, I am tired. I walked to the bed and lay down on the inner side. Julian sighed, climbed into bed, and lay beside me. I kept my back to him. He reached out to hold me. I pushed him away. He held me tighter and I kicked him right off the bed. Ouch, Julian yelped from the floor. That hurts. That really hurts. I think a bone is broken. I turned over and got out of bed. Just as I was about to check on him, Julian pulled me into his arms. Julian, Evelyn, don't push me away. I am scared, he said, holding me tightly. Let me go. I won't. Julian. I was getting angry. Fearing my real anger, he carefully released me. Evelyn, please don't leave me, okay? I said nothing. I know you are angry about how I treated Leo just now. He is your flesh and blood. You share a bond thicker than water. If you aren't good to him, who will be? I said, mimicking his mother's tone. Julian suddenly smiled. What are you smiling at? I was furious. I get scared when you are silent. It's better if you speak, even if you're yelling at or hitting me. I just hate it when you bottle up your grievances, Julian said, taking my hand. Then he said earnestly, Evelyn, I was just putting on a show for my mother. You know my father passed away early, and tomorrow is her big birthday. I had to go along with her. I'll visit her less often from now on, all right? I just felt a suffocating sense of injustice. I didn't know how many more excuses he would come up with. And I didn't know how long I could tolerate it. The next morning, I was busy with my mother-in-law's birthday banquet. Julian was greeting guests, and I barely saw him all morning. Instead, I ran into a flustered-looking May. She seemed frightened to see me and quickly bowed. Sister. I glanced at her. It would be a lie to say I didn't dislike her, but things were as they were and refusing to accept it would only suffocate me. I asked casually, have you seen Julian? May became even more agitated. No, I haven't seen the master. I frowned. Was she that scared of me? I hadn't made things difficult for her since my return. As I turned to leave, my eyes suddenly froze. I saw a small reddish mark on May's neck. May seemed to notice my gaze. She touched her neck, confused, and asked with an innocent expression, Sister, is there something on my neck? It is nothing, I said, looking away. Then I'll take my leave, May said with a bow, hurrying off. I turned and walked toward the main hall. I finally saw Julian, who had been missing all morning. The moment he saw me, he rushed over, saying with concern, Evelyn, you've worked so hard on Mother's banquet. After the luncheon, you must go back to your room and rest. Don't exhaust yourself. Where were you all morning? I asked directly. I've been here greeting guests the whole time, Julian said with a candid expression. Then why didn't I see you when I came by earlier? I didn't see you either, Julian replied. There are so many people, perhaps we just missed each other. Oh, right, I was at the main gate receiving Prince Alistair and his party. You know how we can't neglect members of the royal family. I've already shown them to their seats in the inner hall. I pressed my lips together, looking at him. An indescribable sense of oppression weighed on my heart. Julian took my hand in his. Evelyn, I know you hate being apart from me, and I feel the same. After Mother's banquet is over, I'll take you to the South Mountain Temple to see the flowers in a few days. How about that? I nodded once. Well, I'll go back to the guests then. All right. Julian left with a look of reluctance. I turned and headed to the inner hall to entertain the female guests. General Evelyn. A familiar voice called out from the corridor. I turned to see Prince Alistair. We had more or less grown up together. As a child, Alistair was frail and sickly. The late emperor, worried about his health, often sent him to the general's estate for my father to help him build up his strength. My father's efforts were not in vain. Alistair was now tall and strong, showing no trace of his childhood illness. Your Highness, I said, curtsying. Alistair chuckled. We haven't seen each other in so many years, you've certainly become formal. I pursed my lips. I remembered how I used to cause trouble as a child, and Alistair would always be there to clean up my messes. Every time I was about to be punished by my father, he would plead on my behalf. I am a married woman, and your Highness is a married man. We are no longer ignorant children. We must maintain our propriety and observe the proper etiquette, I said, deliberately keeping my distance. Ignorant children. Alistair's lips were still turned up in a smile, but it didn't seem like he was actually smiling. He said, You may be a married woman, but I am not a married man. I looked at him, surprised. Before I left for the campaign, hadn't I heard that the emperor had personally decreed his marriage to the daughter of the Minister of Rights? Alistar offered no explanation. He turned and walked away. I didn't need to dwell on it. It was widely rumored that the prince had feelings for me, but in reality, it was nothing more than the affection between siblings. I returned to the female guests, entertaining them with food, drinks, and games. After the luncheon, I planned to return to my room for a short rest. Passing a rockery in the courtyard, I heard Leo crying and complaining from behind it. Why can't I go outside and play? I am father's only son. Am I that much of an embarrassment? Leo, be good. Just do as your father says, May soothed him in a low voice. No, Leo said stubbornly. I want to go out and play. Why has everything in this house changed since that woman came back? Father isn't close to me anymore, and everyone has to walk on eggshells around her. Just because she is a general, does that make her so great? Leo, May's tone was reproachful. I am clearly 5 years old. Why did I have to lie and say I am 4 in front of her? Leo continued to shout, refusing to back down. At that moment, I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. I stood frozen for a long time before leaving the rockery and returning to my room. I sat on the bed, my heart unexpectedly cold. Whether Leo was 4 or 5, Julian was already tainted in my eyes. There would always be a knot in my heart that could never be untied. The only thing that had sustained my will to continue this relationship was the belief that Julian loved me and would not deceive me. But now, he had lied. If Leo was 5, it meant that Julian hadn't had a son with May in a drunken stupor of longing after I left for the campaign. It meant Julian was already with May while I was still in the capital. A dull ache spread through my chest. For a fleeting moment, I wanted to draw my sword and kill someone, but in the end, I calmed down. I couldn't just take May's word for it. Though I hadn't had much contact with her, of all the women who could have gotten close to Julian, only May had succeeded in climbing into his bed. This woman couldn't possibly be as simple as she appeared. Even though I wasn't skilled in household politics, I knew they were no less complicated than courtly affairs. Of course, all these reasons couldn't deny that I still held a sliver of hope for Julian. I hoped he wasn't the one who had deceived me. So, I had my confidant secretly investigate the relationship between May and Julian and the exact date of Leo's birth. I didn't believe Julian could hide everything perfectly. The capital was full of people and gossip. It wasn't difficult to uncover the truth if one really tried. While waiting for the results, I did my best to maintain a respectful distance from Julian. I tried my best to ignore May's presence and overlook Leo. Today, Julian said, he was taking me to South Mountain Temple to see the flowers. Just as we were about to leave, his mother stopped us. She said she wanted to see the flowers too and would join us. Julian was in a difficult position. He looked at me, as if seeking my opinion. If he truly wanted to refuse, he wouldn't have looked at me that way. If I disagreed, I would be the unfilial daughter-in-law. Perhaps because I was already biased against him, I saw things more clearly. I said, "Since Mother wishes to come along, let's go together." Upon hearing this, his mother praised me for being sensible and filial, adding that Julian was lucky to have me as his wife. As she spoke, she had May and Leo join her in the carriage. I watched them with a detached expression. Julian probably thought I was upset. He quickly said to his mother, "Mother, I thought it was you who wanted to go. Why are you bringing May and Leo? I am used to May's service. I am not comfortable with anyone else. As for Leo, of course he has to come. What kind of outing leaves a child behind?" She didn't give Julian a chance to refuse and ordered the driver to depart. Julian looked at me apologetically. "Evelyn, I am sorry. I didn't know my mother would." "It is fine," I said with a light smile. "Perhaps in the future you all will be the real family." "What are you talking about?" Julian's reproachful tone was laced with affection. He said firmly and lovingly, "In the future, my life will only have you." At that moment, I felt not a shred of emotion. Suddenly, I felt utterly disgusted. South Mountain Temple was a sea of flowers. Many people came to pray and make offerings, and many came to admire the blossoms. We first offered incense to the bodhisattvas, then went to see the flowers and finally had a vegetarian meal. Throughout the entire time, Julian stayed by my side, never leaving. He maintained a strict distance from May and didn't let Leo get too close. His preference for me was undisguised. His mother would occasionally make sarcastic remarks, generally meaning that he had forgotten his mother now that he had a wife. Each time, Julian would counter her. After the meal, his mother said she was tired and asked Julian to find her a room at the temple to rest before we returned. "Evelyn, would you like to rest for a while too?" Julian asked thoughtfully. "No, I'll go look at the flowers again. You go ahead. I'll come find you as soon as I've settled her," Julian said, his voice gentle. "All right." Julian left with his mother. I took my maid and walked towards the crabapple blossoms. After a while, I grew bored. I had never been fond of flowers and plants, nor was I interested in needlework. Julian should have known that. After wandering around, I returned to the temple. I wondered why Julian was taking so long to find me. It should have been quick. As I walked into the temple's rear courtyard, a voice cried out, "You can't go in." Leo suddenly ran out from a corner. He had been playing with crickets on the ground, but seeing me, he excitedly blocked my path to the guest rooms. I looked at him coldly. In front of Julian, Leo was well behaved. Under May's watch, he wouldn't dare be disrespectful. But now, with no one else around, his true colors were showing. "Move," I said sternly. "Grandmother, mother, and father are resting. You can't go in and disturb them," Leo said forcefully. I pursed my lips. Although I had no good impression of Leo, I couldn't be bothered to argue with the child. I walked past him. Seeing I was about to go in, Leo suddenly rushed forward and pushed me with all his might. Caught off guard and with Leo's considerable strength, I stumbled back a step. My maid quickly supported me. She was no ordinary servant. She had fought alongside me on the battlefield. Angered by Leo's insolence, she kicked him away. Leo fell to the ground with a thud. "Wea-ha!" He burst into tears. "Crying," he said viciously. "You evil hag, how dare you hit me? I am the only heir of the Song family. Grandmother said the entire family estate will be mine one day. What right do you, a barren, mannish monster, have to treat me like this?" My maid couldn't stand it and moved to teach him another lesson. As a general, I could not tolerate such insults. I stopped her and walked up to Leo, looking down at him. "Who told you I can't have children? Everyone says so. My father, my mother, and my grandmother," Leo said fiercely. "If you weren't a general, my father wouldn't like you at all. My father loves my mother. My mother loves to see the flowers. That is why my father brought her here today." "Leo, what nonsense are you spouting?" Julian suddenly rushed out of a room. His flushed face showed obvious anger. I had never seen him like this. In my mind, he had always been a gentle and refined scholar. Perhaps because I grew up around rougher men, I was susceptible to a man like Julian Fair, handsome and courteous. When he confessed his feelings to me all those years ago, my young heart was lost. I saw Julian's face was red, his clothes and hair slightly disheveled, as if he had just woken up and hadn't had time to tidy himself. He was usually a meticulous person, never appearing so unkempt. But at that moment, he seemed oblivious to his appearance. He rushed to Leo and kicked him furiously. Leo, in pain, cried even louder, now throwing a tantrum on the ground. Julian didn't spare him another glance and hurried to my side, about to explain. Just then, his mother and May rushed over. Seeing Leo on the ground, his mother was heartbroken and ran to pick him up. "What is wrong, Leo? Why are you on the ground? It is so cold. What if you catch a chill?" She showed no sign of reprimanding him for his disgraceful behavior. "Mother hit me, and father hit me too." Leo pointed at me and Julian, wailing. His mother's face changed instantly. She told May to comfort Leo, then walked up to me and Julian, saying sternly to me, "Evelyn, as a wife and the lady of this house, even if you can't be magnanimous, you shouldn't stoop to fighting with a child. Leo is the only heir of our family. How could you hit him?" "I hit him." Julian stepped in front of me, defending me. "Leo just said very clearly that Evelyn hit him too." His mother stared at me, furious. "Julian, if it weren't for you, he wouldn't be the only child at his age. As his mother, not only do you not cherish and discipline him, you constantly target him. Evelyn, how can you be so malicious? Do you want our family line to end?" "Mother, that is enough," Julian shouted. "I've tolerated this for too long," his mother continued, ignoring him. "Look around. What man doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? Julian only took one, and you give him this attitude. Who are you trying to impress? You should think about yourself. You promised the emperor you wouldn't have children for 10 years. After 10 years, you'll be old. Will you even be able to bear children then? Fortunately, Julian took a concubine, otherwise our family line would have truly ended with you. There are 3 major offenses against filial piety, and having no heir is the greatest. Your actions are a great transgression, and you deserve to be struck by lightning. The more she spoke, the angrier she got. She paid no mind to Julian trying to pull her away. In her agitation, she even raised her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist. I squeezed slightly. She cried out in pain, "Evelyn, let me go. You dare to hit me. Have you no respect for the law?" "I can do more than just hit you. I can kill you," I said, my eyes cold. You dare." Her face showed clear panic. "Murder is a capital crime. If you kill me, you won't live either. Do you think as the general who pacifies the nation, who has fought and won battles for the emperor, that he would be willing to execute me?" I stared at her, my eyes filled with killing intent. From a young age, I was never good with words. Why waste my breath on something I could solve with a sword? My maid understood me well and handed me the sword she wore at her waist. Seeing the sword, his mother became even more terrified. She trembled all over, unable to speak clearly. "Evelyn, don't do anything rash. Julian, pull her away, quickly." I sneered. I knew all too well how terrifying a person who had killed countless enemies on the battlefield could look with a bloodthirsty smile. I saw his mother was so scared she went limp. Her arrogant demeanor from moments ago vanished completely. She was just short of kneeling and begging for mercy. "Sister," May suddenly rushed over and knelt before me, crying, "Please spare the old madam, please spare her. Direct your anger at me. It was I who displeased you. Please don't harm an innocent." I looked at May's humble and fragile appearance. From my vantage point, I could clearly see a red mark just below her collar, just like the faint scratch I thought I had seen on Julian's neck earlier. "No, I won't let you hurt my mother." Leo ran over, grabbed my leg, and bit down hard. I winced. With one kick, I sent him flying several feet away. "Leo," May screamed, horrified. She scrambled over to him. "Mom, it hurts, it hurts." My mother-in-law was so frightened by the scene that she couldn't stop shaking. She probably never imagined that I, who was usually so gentle, could become so violent. She likely thought the rumors of the general who killed without batting an eye were just for show. I raised the sword and brought it close to her face. "Evelyn, don't tell me," she begged, tears streaming down her face. Her body so weak she could barely stand. If I hadn't been holding her arm, she would have collapsed. I was just angry just now. "Don't kill me, Julian, my son. Save your mother, Julian." The sword nearing her was grabbed by Julian's bare hand. The blade was sharp. Blood poured from his palm. I looked at him. He looked at me. He said, "Evelyn, my mother was wrong today. Whatever you decide to do is right. Julian, you unfilial son." His mother shrieked upon hearing his words. "But she is my mother, after all. I cannot watch her die. I am willing to bear the consequences of her mistakes," he said, placing the sword against his own neck. Listening to him, I found it laughable. I had to admit, scholars were clever. By doing this, he both expressed his unwavering love and unconditional indulgence for me. Whatever I did today, even harming his mother, was justified. On the other hand, by choosing to take the punishment for his mother, he was betting on the fact that I could never bring myself to actually kill him. In the end, the matter would be dropped. I looked at him coldly. His eyes were, as always, full of deep affection. Not a single flaw. I finally lowered the sword. Knowing his cunning, I still played into his scheme. Not because I couldn't bear it, but because the time was not yet right. "Evelyn," seeing me lower the sword, Julian was so moved his eyes turned red. I turned and walked away without a word. I didn't want to look at him for a second longer. I got into the carriage and headed back. Julian shamelessly joined me in the same carriage. He said, "Evelyn, I am sorry. I never thought things would turn out like this." "Julian, do you truly love me?" I interrupted him, asking directly. I had heard his vows of undying love too many times. I was tired. Julian froze for a moment, then answered with unwavering certainty, "I love you. In this life, I will only love you." At that moment, I didn't know what expression to make scorn. self-mockery, sadness. But I don't like flowers, not at all, I said faintly. I know, I just wanted to take you out for a walk. May likes flowers, doesn't she? This has nothing to do with her, Julian said, agitated. I have no idea what she likes. Don't take what Leo said today to heart. He is just a child spoiled by my mother. A child spoiled, I murmured with a light laugh. It is because he is a child that he speaks without restraint. It is because he is spoiled that he is reckless and hides nothing. Evelyn, how can you doubt my feelings for you? Julian said, sounding incredulous and hurt. My love for you is as constant as the sun and moon, I said. Julian, liars get eaten by wolves. If I don't love you, then let the wolves devour me until not even my bones are left, Julian swore. I turned my gaze to the world outside the carriage window. Julian would only continue to disappoint me. After that, his mother no longer dared to be insolent towards me. The lesson at South Mountain Temple would likely stay with her for a lifetime. Leo also didn't dare to provoke me anymore. He had discovered that even if everyone else in the family doted on him, no one could protect him from me. It was May, however, who became more attentive towards me. She brought me some osmanthus cakes she had made herself. Sister, I heard you haven't had much of an appetite these past few days, so I made some pastries for you to try. If you like them, I can make more. If not, I can try making something else for you, May said with a bright smile. I glanced at the cakes and refused directly. No, thank you. Take them away, I won't eat them. Sister, you could at least try one. What if they're poisoned? How could you think of me that way, sister? May's eyes immediately reddened. She quickly picked up a cake and took a bite to prove they weren't poisoned. Of course, I knew they weren't. A woman who could climb into Julian's bed wouldn't be foolish enough to be so blatant. If you don't like them, sister, you could have just said so. Why must you accuse me like this? I did say so, I interrupted. You just have selective hearing. May was at a loss for words. Leave, I ordered. May left meekly. Just as she reached the door, she ran into Julian, who was just entering. She fell softly into his arms. Julian quickly steadied her, his hand naturally landing on her waist. The next moment, as if realizing something, he quickly let go of her, his expression turning sour. Watch where you are going. Yes, May curtsied and left respectfully. Julian walked over to me, acting as if nothing had happened. He said, I bought you your favorite candied dates, have some. I glanced at the dates, then at Julian. I asked him, Julian, do you think I am a fool? How could you be a fool? You are the great general, the hero of the North, Julian said proudly. So I only know how to wield a sword and a spear, and nothing of schemes and plots. Evelyn, what is wrong with you today? Julian seemed nervous, clearly having noticed my strange behavior. It is nothing. I am not feeling well. I want to rest for a while. You can go. Should I call the physician for you? No need. I stood up and went into the inner chamber. Julian did not follow me in to keep me company. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, then left. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Actually, I had received the results of the investigation from my confidant yesterday. It wasn't as unbearable as I had imagined. Perhaps because I was already mentally prepared. I came out of the inner chamber and wandered around the estate. Julian wasn't in the study. Not in the living room. Not in the back garden. Not at his mother's place. Not at May's place. And of course, in all the places I searched, May was also nowhere to be found. So had they gone out? I passed by the kitchen and paused. Since I had made up my mind, I shouldn't leave any stone unturned. It wasn't mealtime, so there were no servants in the kitchen, and certainly no Julian and May. As I turned to leave, I heard a faint sound from a small woodshed, not far from the kitchen. It was so quiet that you wouldn't notice it if you weren't listening carefully. I walked over. As I approached, I saw Julian's attendant. His face turned pale the moment he saw me. Madam, what are you doing here? As he spoke, his voice was a little loud, as if he were trying to warn someone. I walked directly towards the woodshed. The attendant tried to stop me. I kicked him away. He crashed into the woodshed door, forcing it open. Inside, Julian and May were in a state of disarray. The Julian I knew was clean, refined, like a spring breeze. The man before me now was sullied, disheveled, utterly sordid, truly a man of 1,000 faces. Ah, May screamed, burying herself in Julian's arms. Julian shoved her away. He looked at me in a panic. Evelyn, let me explain. Listen to me. Get dressed first. Then you can explain slowly. I was perfectly calm. So calm it surprised even me. I turned and walked away. Less than an incense stick's worth of time after I returned to my room, Julian came in. He entered and immediately knelt on the floor. He said, Evelyn, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Tears and snot streamed down his face as he apologized over and over like a madman. I watched his breakdown. I really didn't know him at all. I never thought he would be so flustered, so utterly undone. Even when he was facing execution by the Emperor, he had maintained his pride and composure, showing no fear or submission. May and I was. Julian couldn't find the words. He didn't know how to explain himself. He had claimed to love only me, yet he was secretly carrying on with May. To avoid my detection, he had stooped to using a filthy woodshed. The thought of that scene made me retch. It was truly nauseating. Seeing my reaction, Julian wanted to comfort me, but he didn't dare. After composing myself, I asked him, Have you always been like this with May? I didn't want to waste any more time on him. I should have confronted him long ago. But one must catch the adulterers in the act. The evidence had to be irrefutable. No. Julian shook his head, denying it repeatedly. On your mother's birthday, when you disappeared all morning, you were with May, weren't you? I asked. Julian froze, a look of astonishment in his eyes. He probably didn't expect that I had known all along. And the day we went to South Mountain Temple, in that pure and sacred place, you were with May then too, weren't you? I continued. He was silent, a dead silence. Julian, you can't hide things forever, I said. Even if I am a warrior and not a scholar like you, I am not so stupid as to be completely clueless. Evelyn, let me explain. I have no feelings for May. I was just... Julian still couldn't speak. Did he feel that the vows he once made to me made it too shameful for him to speak now? Let's get a divorce, I said. I didn't want to hear any more of his explanations. They were all lies. No, I will not divorce you, Evelyn. I won't. I love you, Evelyn. I can't be without you. I can't. Julian was in anguish. You can't, I laughed. When you were holding May, when you were in that woodshed, did you ever think that you couldn't? It was my greed and selfishness. I wronged you. Evelyn, I love you. Don't leave me. I am begging you. Don't leave me. Julian knelt on the floor, utterly humbled. I looked at him, finding the situation absurd. How could he still say he loved me after being caught red-handed? With May, it was truly my mother who plotted it. Julian finally began to explain. May is my distant cousin from my mother's side of the family. When I insisted on marrying you, my mother was against it. She was afraid that because of you, our family line would end. She even threatened to kill herself. Then you shouldn't have married me. I had told him from the beginning that I didn't need him to repay me. In truth, even without Julian, the Emperor would have found a way to prevent me from having children. The stability of the kingdom was paramount, and for the sake of the people, I would have agreed anyway. So, if Julian hadn't married me back then, I wouldn't have held any grudges. But now, under the guise of love and gratitude, he had so casually deceived me. I hated him for it. I love you, Evelyn, Julian said with deep feeling. Julian, I truly love you. The first time with May, my mother drugged me, he said. I had initially agreed to my mother's plan as a stalling tactic. I never intended to actually be with May. But my mother tampered with my tea, which led to that one night. Leo is 5, isn't he? I said casually. After a long moment, he nodded honestly. Yes, the first time with May was before you left for the campaign. I laughed. It would be a lie to say my heart wasn't cold. At that time, I must have loved Julian so dearly. I felt so guilty towards him and was secretly seeing physicians to help regulate my body. Although I never made any promises to him, fearing he would be disappointed, I knew deep down that I wanted to have his children. I didn't want the Song family line to end because of me. Even on the campaign trail, I carried my herbs with me, drinking the medicine constantly, all so that I might still be able to conceive after 10 years. Thinking about it now, it was all so laughable. After that incident, I truly wanted to kill myself, but I couldn't bear to leave you. I didn't want our hard-won life together to end with one of us in the grave. But after that, I really did distance myself from May and never touched her again. If it weren't for her getting pregnant and giving birth, we would have never spoken again, Julian said, his voice filled with pain. Julian, you were just with May in the woodshed, I reminded him, amused. He lowered his head, tears streaming down his face. It was after you left for the campaign. My mother forced me to bring Leo and May back. In the 5 years you were gone, I missed you so much. When the longing became unbearable, I would drink. One time, May came in to take care of me, and I mistook her for you. Julian, I am back now. I couldn't help but interrupt. I am standing right here in the flesh. Over time, Julian's throat tightened, seemingly unable to control his emotions. He said, I grew accustomed to her body. I laughed. This time, I laughed out loud. So habit could also be an excuse. Evelyn, listen to me. I am truly just used to her body. The person I love is you, only you, Julian said frantically. If you don't like me being with her, I'll never be with her again. Never again, I swear. Julian, do you know what I care about the most? Compared to his emotional outburst, I was remarkably calm. What I care about most is that you have been deceiving me all this time. Now, I can't tell which of your words are true and which are false. My love for you is real, Julian blurted out. I only lust after May's body. I chuckled softly, just a faint, mocking laugh. Julian seemed to realize what he had just said. He quickly added, I'll send May away right now. I'll send her away from the estate this instant. I'll never see her again, and then I'll never betray you again. With that, Julian scrambled up from the floor and rushed out. He seemed terrified that I would change my mind, terrified that I would leave him. But he knew perfectly well that once I made a decision, I would not change it. That afternoon, heart-wrenching sobs echoed through the estate. It was his mother. It seemed she was even less able to accept the departure of May and Leo. The commotion outside my door lasted for a long time before she burst into my room. She said, Evelyn, it was my fault. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. Please tell Julian not to send May and Leo away, please. Leo is my life. If he leaves, how can I go on living? She collapsed onto the floor, looking as if she were at death's door. The decision to send May and Leo away was not mine. If it weren't for you, why would Julian go to such length? His mother persisted. Please be the bigger person and accept May and Leo. I swear, I'll only let Julian have this one concubine. If he ever thinks of another woman, I'll break his legs myself. I'll say it again, that was Julian's decision, and it has nothing to do with me. If you don't agree today, I'll die right here in front of you, his mother threatened. As you wish, I said, indifferent. You are not afraid of bringing misfortune upon this family. You are not afraid of being judged by others? She demanded. No, I said nonchalantly. Their mouths are their own. They can say what they like. I can't control them. You. His mother was so angry she was on the verge of collapse. At that moment, May also rushed in. She knelt before me. Madam, I beg you, please spare Leo. You can make me leave, I will go. But Leo is innocent. Please don't banish him as well. I looked at May's desperate state. To be honest, I had never intended to make things difficult for her. It wasn't wrong for her to love Julian and want to be his concubine. What was wrong was that Julian did not refuse her, giving her the false hope that she could have him completely, which led to her greater ambitions. May, you deliberately let me walk in on you and Julian, didn't you? I asked her directly. A flash of panic crossed May's eyes. She quickly shook her head. No, it wasn't intentional, I asked calmly. The first time you let me find out was at the master's mother's birthday banquet, wasn't it? I don't know what you are talking about. That day, you rushed into me and intentionally revealed the mark on your neck, didn't you? No, May shook her head in terror. Latter, you and Leo hid behind the rockery, deliberately having him say he was 5 years old for me to hear, right? I continued. No, I didn't even know you were there. And at South Mountain Temple, I stated flatly, without much emotion, simply laying out the truth, you knelt before me intentionally to let me see the mark on your chest. I didn't. I never. May kept denying it, but the panic in her expression betrayed her. And today, you came to deliver pastries with the intention of running into Julian, didn't you? You know exactly how to seduce him, don't you? I asked her earnestly. May trembled, shaking her head continuously, not daring to admit it. And Julian saw all of this. He had followed May into my room but was stopped at the door by my guards. I gave a disdainful smile. May, if you had just behaved yourself, I might have helped you keep this from Julian. After our divorce, you two might have been able to reconcile, but you just had to court death. May couldn't get a word out. Finally, she broke down and admitted, I was wrong, madam. Please forgive me. I will never dare to do it again. She would. Once you let it happen, it will happen countless times. Wasn't Julian the same? With a glance, I had my guards release Julian. He strode into the room, walked up to May, and slapped her hard across the face. You wretched woman. May was stunned by the blow. The next moment, she began to beg for mercy. Master, I only did it because I love you. I did it for Leo. Julian wouldn't listen, unleashing a torrent of kicks and punches on her, venting his fury. Old madam, please save me. I truly did it for Leo. May cried, the master is going to kill me. If Leo loses his mother, what will he do? His mother rushed over and threw her arms around May to protect her. Julian, let her go. If you hit May again, I'll die right here in front of you. Julian's eyes were red with rage. He shoved his mother to the ground. She stared at him in disbelief, unable to accept that her utterly filial son could treat her this way. Julian, you unfilial son. For treating me like this, you'll be struck down by lightning. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live. She wailed, sitting on the floor. I watched them as if I were watching a play. It was just noisy, so incredibly noisy. I said, Julian, don't waste your energy. Even if you beat May to death, what would it change? We are still getting a divorce. Julian's kicks faltered. May seized the opportunity to scramble behind his mother, sobbing. Without May, there will be other women. There are so many women in the world. How can you guarantee you won't lust after the next one? I said sarcastically. My words left Julian utterly humiliated. He said, Evelyn, I promise this will not happen again. If it does, may I die without a grave. What use is your promise? Last time, you said that if you lied to me, you'd be devoured by wolves until not even your bones were left. Yet, here you are, perfectly fine. Julian was speechless. Let's get a divorce. Let's not make each other miserable anymore. I had my maid bring Julian the divorce papers I had already prepared. He hadn't expected me to be so ready. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face twisted with rage as he looked at the papers. He tore them to shreds like a madman. I will not get a divorce, not even in death. Evelyn, don't leave me, I am begging you. I'll change. I swear I'll change. Divorce him. His mother suddenly interjected, shouting, Divorce him immediately. And after you do, get out of this house. Get out right now. She must have been pushed to her limit, her usual fear of me momentarily forgotten. See, I knew it would happen again. Human nature is what it is. A leopard cannot change its spots. I slowly walked towards her. Seeing me approach, she was still a little scared. She trembled. What are you doing? Don't do anything rash. Madam, I said, standing before her and articulating each word carefully. Have you forgotten whose house this is? She froze, speechless. I continued bluntly. Have you forgotten that Julian has not held an official post for many years? This estate and everything in it is all mine. Because Julian had offended the emperor, he was barred from holding office even after his release. All these years I had been the one supporting the family. What a waste. His mother was so guilty, she stammered. Julian, sign this divorce paper. Then take your mother, your concubine, and your son, and leave this place. I ordered. Evelyn, I'll say it one last time. Sign it and get out. My voice rose. This was my final act of mercy towards him. I was letting his whole family be together. They just needed to get as far away from me as possible. Julian stared at me, his eyes terrifyingly red. He said, Evelyn, why can't you believe that you are the only one I love? I truly have no feelings for May. My maid drew her sword and held it to his neck. His mother's face went white with fear. She grabbed Julian's arm. Fine, a divorce it is. Men can have multiple wives and concubines. After a woman is divorced, who will want her? She can't even have children. When she dies, there will be no one to even mourn her. Mother, sign it, I threatened coldly. If you don't, I'll cut off your arm and sign it for you. Julian looked at me, his eyes filled with a red haze. He gritted his teeth and under my threat finally signed the divorce papers. He said, Evelyn, I know you are angry right now. When you've calmed down, I'll come back for you. Get out! I didn't want to hear another word from him. I never wanted to see him again. From this day forward, he was dead to me. Julian left, his teeth clenched. His mother and May hurried after him. The room was finally quiet. I sank heavily onto the chaise lounge. It was impossible to say I felt nothing. I had once loved him with all my heart, but I believed that time could heal all wounds. Slowly, I would forget completely. But to my surprise, Julian returned the next day, kneeling at the gates of my estate, begging to see me. I ignored him. He knelt there without food or water from morning till night. He did this for half a month. The news spread throughout the capital. Even the emperor heard about it. He summoned me to the palace to ask what had happened between us. After all, I had once risked my life to save him. Why had things come to this? I remained silent. The emperor didn't press further, only saying that if I wished, he could arrange a marriage for me. This meant I could have any man I desired. I wouldn't have to worry about being unwanted after my divorce. It was his way of compensating me for the 10 years I was forbidden from having children. Thank you for your grace, your majesty. But I do not intend to marry again. I only wish to defend our borders and serve you loyally. The emperor sighed. If you insist, you make things difficult for me. I didn't understand his meaning. As I was leaving the palace, I ran into Prince Alistair. He seemed to be waiting for me. I heard you and Julian divorced. Does your highness wish to mock me? No, Alistair denied. He opened his mouth to say something but then sighed. Come, I will escort you out of the palace. There is no need. You may not refuse. Royal authority was absolute. I dared not disobey. Alistair escorted me back to my estate. Julian was still kneeling at the gate. When he saw me return, a glimmer of joy appeared on his pale face, but it vanished when he saw Alistair behind me, replaced by panic and anger. Evelyn, Julian called out. I ignored him and walked past. Evelyn, Julian reached for me. Before I could react, Alistair pulled me into his arms, shielding me from Julian's touch. My body was pressed tightly against his, which made me a little uncomfortable. I tried to break free, but he held me fast. I looked at him. He looked at Julian and said, Master Julian, please conduct yourself with dignity. You are the one who should have some dignity holding Evelyn like that. A man and a woman should not be so familiar. Let her go, Julian said, fuming. Evelyn and I are to be married, Alistair stated plainly. Julian froze. I froze too. Since when was I marrying Alistair? How is that possible? How could it be? Julian refused to believe it. Why not? You and Evelyn are divorced. Our marriage is perfectly legitimate. No, I don't accept it. Evelyn, you still love me, don't you? You won't marry someone else, right? Evelyn, please stop being angry with me. I truly know I was wrong. It will never happen again. I haven't touched May once since then. I've sent her away from the capital. I really can change. A dog always returns to its vomit, Alistair said scornfully, then threatened, Evelyn is now my betrothed. If you continue to bother her, don't blame me for being discourteous. Guards, at your command. Drag him away. He is not to come within 10 meters of the general's estate. Yes, sir. Alistair's men dragged Julian away forcefully. No matter how much he struggled against Alistair's authority, it was futile. I watched Julian's pathetic state. Does your heart ache for him? Alistair asked. I snapped back to reality and quickly pulled away from his embrace. I said respectfully, Thank you for your help, your highness. But please do not jest with me. What jest? Alistair looked at me. My lord and I are not to be married. Your highness should not tarnish my reputation, even though I no longer have one. Whether you have a reputation or not is for me to decide. In my eyes, you are pure. As for our marriage, that is up to you, Evelyn. I looked at him, wondering if I had heard him correctly. Alistair sighed. It is my failure that after all these years, I never let you know my feelings, allowing that boy Julian to get to you first. As he spoke, he suddenly pulled me into his arms again. I was startled and tried to push him away. Alistair held me tighter. Even with all my years of martial arts training, I couldn't break free. When had he become so strong? I said bluntly, "Your Highness, I do not need your pity. I need yours," Alistair said, each word deliberate. "Pity me for the 20-odd years of unrequited love I have endured." My heart skipped a beat, but the next moment I pushed him away with all my might. Alistair looked at me, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I do not know what your Highness means, but I will not marry again. I have already informed the Emperor. I will be leaving for the border soon, to live a life on horseback, never to return." Alistair just looked at me. "I have failed your Highness." With that, I turned and went back into my estate. My feelings for Alistair, maybe they existed, maybe they didn't. I had no desire to figure it out. After Julian, I no longer wanted to be entangled in matters of the heart. I preferred to be alone, loyal to my country. Later, Julian was no longer able to appear before me. His mother did come to see me once, saying that Julian was wrong, that they had sent May away, that they were all wrong. But what did it matter? She only regretted it because she had lost her life of luxury. After that, I set off for the border. On the day of my departure, Julian appeared before me again. He looked even weaker than the last time I had seen him. It seemed as if he could collapse at any moment. He said, "Evelyn, can you take me with you?" I looked at him, my expression cold and calm. I had truly let go. "I want to go to the border with you. If you never return, I will stay with you for the rest of my life." "Julian, it is over between us. But I can't accept you leaving." His eyes were red-rimmed. "These past few days, I have been going mad thinking of you. I regret deceiving you. I regret being seduced by May. I regret losing you. Evelyn, please take me with you. I will do anything. Be your servant. I beg you, don't leave me." Large tears rolled down his cheeks. "That you love me, I believe. That you want multiple wives and heirs to carry on your name, I also accept," I said. "The one thing you should not have done was deceive me." "I will never deceive you again," Julian said humbly. "You said that killing May would be useless, that there are countless women in the world, that without May there would be others. So, I had myself castrated." My eyes widened slightly. Julian's expression was calm, a faint smile on his lips. "This way, no matter the woman, I will no longer be tempted." "Are you insane?" I asked him. "For you, any madness is worth it." "But I don't love you anymore," I rejected him coldly. "Julian, regret doesn't earn forgiveness. Sacrifice doesn't guarantee a reward. Pity is not a reason for compassion." Julian lowered his eyes, his whole being exuding loneliness. He asked in a low voice, "Can I still not return to your side?" "Number." Julian's throat moved as he swallowed. He suppressed his sorrow and said, "Then take care of yourself." He turned and walked away, his body swaying, stumbling. I did not linger. I mounted my horse and rode towards the border. From now on, my purpose was the world. Epilogue. I guarded the border for half a year. Even after our last victory, the region remained unstable. The enemy still coveted the fertile lands of the north. I drilled my troops daily, stockpiled supplies, and remained ever ready for battle. One day, after finishing drills, I returned to my tent. There, sitting inside, was Alistair. I looked at him in astonishment. What was he doing here so far from the capital? As if reading my mind, he said, "I came here for two things." I frowned. First, to court my wife. Second, to fight alongside my wife. "Your Highness, I began. "You cannot refuse. To do so would be to defy an imperial edict." With that, Alistair produced a royal decree. I was speechless. "From now on, through war and on horseback, I will not leave your side," Alistair said, each word ringing with conviction. I took a deep breath. Fine. I couldn't defy a direct order. Besides, the border was harsh, and war was ever present. How could a pampered prince endure it? And if he did, what reason would I have to refuse him? So, let time pass in silence and wait for the flower to bloom.